portfolio holders for noting, and they noted. Which takes us to item 10. Financial performance quarter 1, 23-24, which was published as part of a supplementary agenda item. Is that proposed? Councillor Lefard, we've got a second for that. Councillor Harlow, Councillor Lefard, would you like to introduce the item?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? Well, firstly, I'd like to just let you all know and hope you appreciate the new format of presentation we're using for the financial performance review. It's the first time we've used this. Having looked at some of the peer groups, peer authorities, we realised that we needed to improve it, to make it more transparent, more intelligible, and put some of the graphics help in this context. Going forward, we will be producing the financial reports not quarterly but monthly, and that will start at the end of this month. That will enable us hopefully to keep much closer track on how we're doing, and also will enable us to identify any issues coming up and to react to them much quicker. The new format also includes, when we're proposing papers, that options are presented. And this again is a useful tool to ensure that we are covering all the corners. Moving on now, I'm pleased to inform you that the general fund is aligned with the budget Q1. At a time throughout the country where many councils are under huge financial pressures, the latest being Birmingham is entering into Section 114. And it's already been announced that possibly up to 100 councils this year will struggle to balance their budgets. Here in Harlow, we're pleased to report that we are running our general fund within budget at the end of Q1, even with a small surplus of 140,000. And we also forecast that for the end of the year, it will be balanced. This has been achieved, notwithstanding increased overheads, energy costs, insurance premiums, and reduced car parking income. We've sought to make savings and efficiencies without impacting on both our statutory and unique discretionary services. We've also been active in restructuring our capital and non-housing capital programs so as to align them fully with the 5 priorities of this council. Everything in respect to the finance is driven by the need to achieve the objectives stated. We've managed to generate new forms of revenue, primarily from the acquisition of the Harbour Centre, forming above expectations, and is looking to generate even more going forward. We've also had the roundabout sponsorships, which has been taking place, as you'll probably notice, around the town. And further initiatives will be divulged in the near future, similar to these, of new commercialisation opportunities, which will not require investment nor expose the council to any risk. We're investing record amounts in housing and housing repairs, and sorry, just 1 second. And we're announcing as well commence in Q2 and Q3 the new house building programs which have been long awaited.
And I understand, Councillor Lefard, there's also some amended added
yes.
recommendations.
Yes.
Proposing those as part.
Yes, actually, thank you, Chair. An amendment has been a supplementary paper being circulated regarding the demolition of garages and the allocation of 1.6 million, which is not additional funding. It is actually a change of use of funds. So I would like that to be taken with the main motion if possible.
Thanks, Councillor Lefard. Are there any questions? Councillor Harlow.
Someone will be surprised to ask this question, but there's a £61,000 increase projection on the cost of the street lighting in terms of our payment to Essex County Council. Given that nearly 5,000 of our 6,500 street lights in Harlow have now been changed to LEDs, which are 60% cheaper to operate, what is the actual direction of this cost?
I was only going to say the direction of cost will be very much coming down with the reduction of cost of providing the service. Being a Essex County Council at 9:30 on Monday morning, this should be the first item of discussion.
May I just add? Yes, the actual figure was based on an earlier forecast of energy prices made at the time when we set the budget, which at that time were much higher. Now that we've undertaken these changes, we expect quite convincingly that these will fall, and we will review it for the next period. It's interesting to note that although Harlow buys this, which doesn't apply to the street lighting, through our own electricity use, we buy ours in block, we buy forward for a package for a period, whereas Essex intends to buy, appears to buy a spot, so that also has an effect.
Questions, Councillor Harbour?
Can you just clarify, there is a near shortfall of 500 in rents in terms of housing dwelling rents. Could you give an explanation on that, please?
Yes, thank you for that question. Part of that was due to slightly, let's say, mistaken projection on the voids. So it is actually less. We overestimated the number of voids. In fact, the number of voids is coming down, and coming down much faster. Our voids before were about turnaround times 90 to 120 days. We're now down to 26 days. So that figure is inflated by forecast was no longer really relevant. So we expect it to be lower, and the trend will be lower going forward.
Yeah, I have one on that. What is the housing IT, which is referred to in the housing and commentary appendix A?
There's a number of strands to that. I'll take them in chronological order. The first being upgrades to the system which our own housing team use called in terms of the process, the asset management side of that. Some of the things I said earlier on was about stock condition survey that we're carrying out. We're upgrading our IT in terms of asset management to ensure that that is working as effectively as possible. But also part of it, in the most simplistic way of explaining it, is that ensuring our system talks with the HCS system, which will again significantly improve the service for tenants across the town. And the third part, which is the part that will run over into the next financial year, which is referenced, is a significant change in our IT system in terms of housing allocation. So as things stand, when someone applies for a council property, the usual time in terms of an answer they'll receive is about 16 weeks. That's for their application, which is manually processed at the moment, to be answered. At that point, they may find out that they've in fact been declined, which is obviously not favourable, and that they've waited 16 weeks for that, usually with their housing need. What the upgrade to IT will do is make that an automatic process, and therefore, when these IT upgrades are complete in the next financial year, when someone applies for a property through that process, it will be done automatically. As soon as they complete their application, they will be told whether they're accepted or not and allocated into the according band. So it's a massive upgrade to our IT system and services accordingly. And that's why that part particularly is going to take a bit longer. They are serious upgrades which are well overdue. Do you have any further questions?
Yeah, just not one last one. There's reference to which development oh, sorry, beg pardon, sorry. There's reference to which elm actually needing finance later. Can you explain what this is?
I think it's probably Elm Hatch.
Elm Hatch.
Yeah,
Okay.
The only reason being is that the plan application is in at the moment, but it was, the scheme had undergone further variation, and particularly on the cost control side. So, it's taking place somewhat later than we expected.
Yeah.
And therefore finance needed slightly later.
Sorry, yes, and in fact, it will be phased in towards the end of this year, and most of the carryovers is 24 to
The intention is that it'll be on site January 24. Councillor Sears.
The report states that there is a projected to be favourable variance in the budget, which I understand the council has delivered all services this year in its allocated budget. Are you able to say when the last time the council projected to do this?
The last time a report came to Cabinet projecting favourable variance, it wasn't achieved. It was in December 2020. So in terms of when the council last asked or completed a year-end favourable variance, I'm not aware of, but I'm sure it's been around for years.
I'll check that. I suppose we also have to make some allowance as well for the COVID period. But if you're happy, yes, we'll still get a written party.
Councillor Carter.
Thank you, Chair. I've got a few questions. First one is increasing insurance premiums have been offset by a reduction in staffing costs. If these continue to rise, how will you cover these in the future?
Good question. At the moment, you are very much at the mercy of the market. People shop around, obviously, for other insurance premiums, but so far, from what I understand, we've covered ourselves for the year, some going even further. And given that inflation seems to be coming down now, we don't envisage that as being an ongoing problem.
Thank you.
Councillor Carter.
At the moment, I believe we've got something like 18.5 million right to buy funds tucked away somewhere. With short-term interest rates rising, what have we done with that money? Are we making a decent return on that money?
Okay, well, this actually comes on to the next page, which is on the treasury, but I'm going to be unhappy to take it now. And in fact, it might. I'll go on to treasury then, if you like. Chair, is that possible? No. Okay, our funds are invested prudently within the Treasury strategy and risk management profiles, which means that most of our investments are in AA or AA plus rated investments. We use Arlene Close, who are one of the leading advisors to local governments, although we make our own investment decisions. Now we also are very mindful of liquidity as well. So we have, at the moment today, we have about 30 million funds, mostly invested in investment grade market funds, which we can switch as well. But just to answer the main point of your question, we're achieving rates of between 5 and 5.5% per annum, which is very good, particularly on the risk-weighted basis.
Thank you. My next question is the Water Gardens car park and the reduced income of 170,000. Could you tell us what the reason for that is, and is there any update on how we're going to deal with it?
Well, part of it is still, I'd say, the legacy of COVID. I can't, we won't even consider these present works because they don't cover the period we're talking about. We are, one of the things that is also an impact on this, even though it is picking up now, we are seeing some recovery, is the discounts or special concessions offered by some of the retailers. We're checking actually to ensure that they are complying with the terms of the agreements with Water Gardens. But there's nothing you can do, you need to force people to come park here. But we have noticed, for example, Asda have been handing out tickets willy-nilly, without any, certainly not within the terms of it. So this has been brought to their attention, water service.
Just to clarify, the projected figure is over the whole financial year.
Yes.
not-
Oh, yes.
So it does include that period, and I'm sure it's speculation about a retail store which may be doing such a thing and not an accusation. Do you have any further questions?
I understand we spent £200,000 on water contingency plans for the playhouse and the museum. Was this in the original budget or has it come along? And what was the reason for this?
Just to clarify, we haven't spent £200,000 proposing to, or up to. It's as a result of some tests that were carried out, wasn't projected in the budget, which we've seen taken this evening. And therefore it's come forward as an in-year new capital project in terms of some issues with the systems in both of those venues, and thus we should be taking strict action to deal with them. Although I would stress that there is no immediate danger as such as a result of that.
One more question. My final question is, it's asked earlier on, Elmhage, you're proposing to spend £3.3 million on this. Could you show me who and how it will benefit in Harlow from this expenditure?
Well, the dwellings that are proposed as part of that scheme, as is proposed in the planning application, is for people currently on our housing needs register, and therefore obviously they would be benefactors of that. I would say for those of you who have perused the planning application, you will see the extremely high quality of the scheme, and I think that will be strongly welcomed by local residents and will be a significant addition to the conservation area at Nextwell and will without doubt be a benefit to every Harlow resident.
Thank you.
Other questions? Councillor Vince, for the sake of some variety.
Phase 12, it says earmarked reserves down by 5.5 million across the last 2 years. Can you give me some indications of the reason behind that?
5.5 billion.
All right.
Yes.
27 million.
I think you'll find that the main item was actually relating to the regeneration, and that was expected. That's the biggest item in there. You'll see that on. I don't know if you've seen this one.
No, it's not just it's referring to the earmarked reserves, page 12.
Yes, it was. That is.
Just while you're looking at papers, there was, as you'll be aware, a serious review of the earmarked reserves for the previous financial year, which you'll be aware subsequent to the action proposed and voted through by full council meant a reduction in those earmarked reserves because they weren't required, and therefore there was no reason to hold on to taxpayers' money if you don't need it, and therefore a good Conservative administration passed the UK's greatest debt.
To answer the question,
I'm just going to finish what I was saying.
oh, sorry.
And that caused part of the reduction you referred to, but perhaps Councillor Epcot can answer.
Yeah, actually, okay, thank you, Chair. I mean, if you look at Appendix F, show as I said, regeneration enterprise reserve stood at 6 million and 89. We used 5.3 million, which is part of the regeneration program. So I don't think that is a cause for concern. In fact, our reserves are well above any statutory requirement within budget. So we continue to invest into our 5 priorities, with which regeneration is an important one.
Councillor Vince, other question?
Yeah, in fact, I'll just ask a question. Phase 20 is Councillor David Carter's highlighted. Part of the reason there's an underspend, or we'll call it an Indian subtractive pressure, is to go to that, is because of staff vacancies, which you know, is obviously a concern. I just wondered, Councillor Carr quickly raised if those vacancies filled, there won't be a subtractive pressure, but a decreased pressure. I just wondered, is the intention to fill those staffing vacancies that are currently just vacant?
Yeah, Paul Councillor answers, there won't be an increased pressure because we're already over one quarter through the financial year, and obviously if they've not been filled for that period, that money's not been spent. There won't be an increased pressure, there'll just be, I presume these figures are largely based on those vacancies being filled.
Yes.
And therefore, this is what we're, in answer to the question, proposing to fill vacancies, and this will be the in-year subtractive pressure as a result of that.
Further to that, I believe you and I both spoke with the Director of Governance today. And went through the fact that several of these vacancies are actually going through interviews and are actively being pursued. So just wanted to make that point.
No, thank you. And part of my concern, recognising I had that conversation with the Council, which is some of those roles will be filled internally, so you still have vacancies done.
Yes.
Can I just clarify, because this is quite an important point you've made here, you're saying that this document is saying what the bottom line would be if those vacancies are filled tomorrow, are they saying what would be if those vacancies are filled in 6 months' time? Because what you said is that you're saying that this is based around they're not being vacancies moving forward, they're just vacancies up until now. Is that what you're suggesting? That's my question. So are you saying that if vacancies aren't, you get one currently, if vacancies aren't filled for 6 months, say, for example, we know they are, but actually there will be an increase?
Well, I get it again. Is a projection of where we're likely to be at the end of the year. Perhaps, I don't know if the Director of Finance wants to comment on how these figures are arrived at.
Happy to, Chair. So the figures in the table presented to the Cabinet were based on budget holders and service managers' predictions for where they expect their overall expenditure to be at the year end. In terms of vacancies, that will include decisions about when those vacancies occur, when they may be filled, and therefore what the saving may be represented in the forecast. So some will be filled as we progress through the year, some may remain vacant if they prove difficult to be filled through the recruitment process. But this is the position at the moment based on the budget holders and the manager's projections on their current vacancies they hold.
So I'm sorry, I just want to get to this. What you're saying is this is kind of prediction of where we'll be some of the vacancies are filled, but not all. Is that what you're kind of saying? So what is the department's predicting where we'll be at the end of the year? That's not guaranteeing every single vacancy is filled. That's what we're not saying.
The most granular level we can get to in terms of the people that are recruiting for said vacancies, this is their best prediction of where we're likely to be.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to clarify. That's slightly what you said, Chair. You said there's specifically filled, but that's what I'm just trying to clarify.
No, what I'm referring to, you said there would be an increased pressure, there wouldn't be an increased pressure. Councillor?
Is any analysis being done of the effects of those having those vacancies? We frequently talk about no effect on frontline, no effect on services, etc. But surely, if the council is carrying vacancies, and certainly if it's carrying vacancies for any length of time, that it can't fill them, it must be, by definition, have an effect on the services provision. My question therefore is any analysis being done of the vacancies and the effect on service provision? If we're saying it's having no effect, then basically you then raise the question, then why do you need to fill the post?
Well, to answer the question, it's not saying there's no effect, otherwise, as you say, it wouldn't be recruited. In terms of analysis, it's done on an ongoing basis by the line leadership team and service managers feeding into that, so absolutely there's review of effects on that ongoing. There's many examples we could talk about all evening about what other interventions have been made if posts have proved difficult to recruit to, or what it is we're offering to the market and whether that's sufficient or whatever the case may be. So it absolutely is an ongoing issue that's looked at all the time by the council's team. I don't know if there's anything more to that.
Yes, and also some of these situations have given us a basis to look at restructuring as well. Again, which will be judged on a case-by-case basis.
Is it council reference? So if I can just come back, but is there any analysis of that being given in a coherent format back to the cabinet or back to the council so we can see what we're saying seems to be dealt with on a case-by-case basis here or there or whatever. There's no transparency in that. How do we get transparency across the board?
As you'd be aware, the operational running of the council is responsibility for the head paid service and thereafter officers within. And if there are any services that are being impacted by such vacancies, that would be brought to the attention of councillors. All councillors can scrutinise that off their own back. At the moment, any such areas where there is an impact on service that has been raised with the relevant cabinet members or cabinet as a whole and joint cabinet and senior management meetings. So yes, there absolutely is an answer to question. Councillor Leeds.
So, where have the impact been on services caused by those vacancies? You said this has been shared. Over the last 6 months, where has that been a problem? Because in your initial address, Chair, you told us that you were very glowing about what the council are doing, and there's absolutely no impact on services, but you just suggested that there has been some impact on services. I'm just saying you can dealt with those issues, but there obviously have been some issues, which is just right. So just wondering, can you give us some idea as to what those services have been impacted by the stuff that is done?
Yeah, I'm more than happy to write to you with such an update. Councillor Harlow.
Not a question, but something that I feel should be said. We're currently facing very difficult economic times, high interest rates, problems abroad, and you've frozen our council tax. Despite all this,
Comments for the next step.
I think
We're not going to comment. We do. I'll go to Councillor Saylor and I'll come back to Councillor and others. Councillor Saylor.
My question to you is obviously we are at the moment running a balance fund budget versus sums up on council. So what has the impact of us and can you say what the residents have felt the fact that we've frozen the council tax bill since May 2021?
Are you asking me what the benefit has been to them or what?
Yeah, in their pocket, what they felt.
Well,
I'd just say to members of the opposition who are here tonight, you may be aware this is a cabinet meeting. If cabinet members or others wish to ask questions, they're more than entitled to do so without your runs from a sedentary position, and it's in the gift of the chairs to ask the questions. So I'll take your behaviour into account with further questions. Councillor Lethard.
Mr. I'll just clarify one point. Would you like the answer in pounds sterling or in smarties?
I think it was Maltesers.
Oh, okay, sorry. Anyway, back to the serious point. When you ask how much the benefit is, it does presume that, let's say, another party will run the council and they will put up the tax by maximum permitted. Of course, we can't be completely sure of that, although previous precedents would show that that would be the case. Looking at it, ballpark, we froze I'm only talking about Harlow, so you have to look at the Harlow element compounded by the increase. So if you said it went up 1.99% or 2% first year, and say 5% for the subsequent ones, you're probably talking about £75, £80 saving, plus the 50. So 125, 130 pounds, around that ballpark. I'll give you the exact numbers after, but that's my top of the head calculation.
If you've got further questions, Councillor, is there anything else I say to all councillors is I'm all for creative weaving of questions that are supposed to be related to the reports in front of you this evening. So if you've got any further questions, keep them that way. Yeah, very good. Yeah, Councillor Seals and that's Councillor Vince. And that's Councillor Lowe.
Thank you. In the report, within the non-housing capital programme page, paragraph 15, it states 1.2 million is being reprioritised. What will be the impact of this investment?
Just while whilst looking at that, just paragraph 15 which refers to 1.2 million is being reprioritised. There's a couple of things I'd say. First is in one of the appendices, I'm not sure which one, D I think, which references any changes to the proposed changes to the non-housing capital programme. You'll see that it's made up of schemes which are no longer taking place that ceased altogether or that are being reprofiled or such things. But I would draw members' attention to the chart under paragraph 20, which shows the comparison of the non-housing capital programme over the last 5 years. And you'll see, with the exception of the acquisition of Harlow Centre last year, which I'm sure we'd all agree was an exceptional circumstance, we are increasing investment as part of the non-housing capital programme into the priorities stated. And therefore that is the effect of that. There's nothing that's being reprioritised or where that money is coming from that would be an adverse thing to the town, or that it's something in need of funding which is not getting it, projects that are ceasing for other reasons, such as there's other parties taking those projects forward. So there's anything why.
No, as I mentioned at the beginning, we have spent quite a lot of time reviewing the capital programme and the non-housing capital programme and reprioritising, redirecting funds forward. So this is part of that exercise.
Councillor Ince, Councillor Durkin, Councillor Dunn. I'm also conscious of time.
I'm really conscious of time, Chair. Once you can't explain, you can ask some questions, but can I just ask, do you want to ask us a few quick?
Yeah, it's quick fire.
Yeah. So obviously, first one, if you give it a bit of detail, is about the insurance. My main is from page 21, which is you want to as well. So obviously, insurance up by 100 I thought perhaps give an insight as to why that is. Obviously, you've raised the issue of voids. Councillor Walter's not here, but he was quite concerned about the number of voids. It's one of the highest that he's seen this time from the council. I just wondered, you said that the 500k values is not accurate. I wonder if you could give us a more accurate figure. You mentioned the £1.6 million that you're moving. Could you just explain where it's coming from? And the bottom line of the it was in-year traffic pressure. Could you confirm, does that include a 600k bailout from the new home budget that we've used in the last 2 years to fund it down? I really asked that a little bit more, but you did say that we were going to do that again, but just wondering if that's included in those figures.
Well, given the time constraints, could you send me those and I will reply to you in writing or answer all for you by Monday?
If I could ask for a time scale on that, and also for the chair's previous question, that would be useful. So if I could ask for
I'll give it to you by close of play tomorrow.
By Monday, okay? But did you send it?
Well, we don't.
All right, okay.
Councillor.
Actually, my question has been raised is our voids and superintendents and
I also had to cover that just for the sake of transparency in that the void figures are nowhere near the heights that they've been.
No.
They're significantly down from where they were. And as the report references, and hopefully you've seen other communications, the turnaround time on voids has significantly increased. We've had a huge uptick over the last 8 weeks in terms of the number of voids that have been handed back to the council and the time frame for that down to, as the report states, about we're in Q1 as an average of 26 days. So it's not right to say that. Are the levels of voids too high? Absolutely. That's why we're investing so much time, effort and money, amendments to business process and so on to bring those down and to speed them up. As I reported to the last cabinet, there's been a number of changes to the process and how we're doing that, and it's bearing fruit, without a doubt. There's a significant uptick, and as the numbers are shown, they are speeding up. I think you also mentioned, just to cover the figure, the 500,000 or thereabouts that's referenced in terms of voids. As Councillor Lecott said earlier, that is down to a technical error in the budget projections. That's why that figure is as high as it is. That does not reflect the reality of the situation, which will give you a bit more of that.
Can I just add to that as well? On the voids, before the average was in 2021, and continuing with our administration, it was over 90 days. Our peer group average is 12 days. We're at 26, so that's a huge improvement. There's still work to be done.
Still any questions? We're still on questions. I think is that Councillor Johnson?
Thank you, Chair. Delighted to hear a few mentions of down patch this evening. I've been going back through my notes from the Watercastle Residents Association, more than that here, in the last 18 months, so obviously a very hot topic, as you all know. Is there any time frame for the development? You can take that.
Yeah, there's our reference, and it's been well communicated to all Council Residents Associations aiming to be on site in January, as in this coming January. Plan applications in at the moment, which will be validated. Hopefully swiftly receive plan permission given the long process that has been. But I believe we're at a position now where that is a very favourable development. And as you'll be aware from those meetings, the local residents are now firmly in favour of the development we're proposing. So January is the intended start date.
Thank you. I look forward to communicating that next meeting.
Councillor Lindsay, that's the last question.
Just by again, I'm probably sure, but Councillor Wilson did ask me to ask this question. I believe in the previous cabinet meeting, you raised an issue, concerns about cost of living being paid out on rent. You can see here, obviously, that there is an issue with the rent down to 519. I think a lot of that is still probably discussed with employees. I wonder what effect does the cost of living have on that number, in terms of who's paying the rent, and what issue that might have had to that final.
You'll be able to see on the website now the monthly performance reports in terms of KPIs, one of them being the rent collection rate, which I think off the top of my head still remains at over 98 or circa 99%. So there's been very limited reduction in that rate, which is a great testament to the officers that deal with that. Which takes us to the end of questions and on to comments. Are there any comments? Councillor Seals.
Yeah, considering the financial constraints faced by many other local authorities, it's really good to see the report shows our strong financial management of the council with more investment in 5 priorities. So that's also been great within budget stuff really.
Councillor
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As the portfolio owner for housing, I'm extremely pleased that I've got 5 priorities. Mine is number 1. I'm not saying it's number 1. It's number 1 in the order. But because of that, we are investing a lot more money in the repairs dealt with, and also the leaks. We are working with HTS. Hopefully, not only is repairs being done, but the standard of the repairs is going up. I think some of the HTS workers are actually looking forward to getting them done in a better way than they did in the past, and I think they're taking a lot more pride in their work. It's a great thing to actually see the repairs come down for the first time for a hell of a long time under 5,000, and I'm very pleased with that.
Councillor Harlow.
Well, Stacey has said what I was going to say. I was going to say the obvious thing is to congratulate Councillor Labour and his team, and in fact the whole council, for staying within their budgets in these difficult times. And not only that, we now have 5 key priorities, which we are allocating extra funds to, which is still keeping us within the budget. So congratulations, Councillor Labour.
Councillor Vince.
Thank you, Chair. I find myself quoting Councillor Durkin when I say that we need to get a little bit real on this. You're right to say for the first time in 2 years there is a in-year subtractive pressure approach to in-year additional pressure. We know that the last 2 years that additional pressure equated to £2.4 million. But we know that unspent is basically due to staff vacancies, and as yet we haven't really got any concrete answers, so I shouldn't use the word concrete, in terms of the impact that's had on services. So I think it would be very best untruthful to say that we haven't had an effect on services. We have got a big budget variation in the new build programme, but that's because we have to be building it. And we can see from page 24, I mentioned previously, that general fund reserve is down by £5.5 million. And HRA is down by £750,000. Unfortunately, this council is full of sound bites including the one that's taken right in our town, which I think is a political soundbite and doesn't have a place in this particular report, in a proper report, and doesn't have a lot of solutions. However, I do want to finish on a positive. Councillor Hardware, I publicly welcome the fact that Essex County Council are introducing LED lights. It's only a shame that 10 years after Labour and Lib Dems brought up the suggestion and to council for.
Councillor Burton.
I don't want to sound very cynical, but that's my job. I think the difficulty is with finance is a marathon, not a sprint, and the difficulty is for you to be so glowing and slapping the backs of the shoulders of all those people. I think is probably immature and not in the right spirit of what they're doing. There is absolutely nothing to celebrate. What we are doing is actually doing what we are paid to do, which is to manage the resources, the limited resources and the destructive resources that the government have given us to over this particular month. And what we shouldn't do and what we need to avoid doing is avoiding the truth. And Councillor Hargett said, we are in a financial crisis, we are in a financial situation. And we can blame everybody, and I don't want to make too much of a political well, let's be realistic. You know, the finance is a marathon. It's not a sprint. It's not over. This is quarter one. The big bad news is coming around the corner. And we will start going back if you get it right at quarter four. But at the moment, I think it doesn't sound right for the general public, for us, for you to be glowing about what a brilliant job you do. But we would expect me to say.
Further comments? Councillor Leclerc? What's that?
Yes, I think we are in difficult times, but we are showing resilience. Not only are we showing resilience and prudence, we are executing our priorities which are for the benefit of this town. And doing things like the Harvey Centre, which, okay, in the end, it had cross-party support. No previous council ever considered that. We've entered into the partnership, which will be spoke about anon. Again, a completely new venture, which will have lasting impact and benefits to this town. And I think to say today that we are putting the council in any way in jeopardy is wrong. We're very conscious of the challenges, but we also have means and are willing to take the decisions necessary to ensure we can remain within the budget and achieve our objectives. Thank you. And I recommend this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Leclerc. And just to sum up before we move to the vote, and to respond to any comments, I take great pleasure in the fact of bringing the report here this evening, which shows that the council is operating within its general fund budget. And I genuinely find it astounding that we have an opposition who, if we were not to be operating within our general fund budget, as they did for the large part of their administration, they'd be hitting us over the head and saying it's a terrible thing. Now we are operating within inside our budget, and we're still being told it's a bad thing. And the thing about gloating about our success, I think it's perfectly reasonable to be commending the work that officers are doing to carry out record council housing repairs, to bring down a significant backlog that was built up over many years, to invest record sums into correct council events, restore pride in Harlow, which is not a political slogan, it's a council priority, or all the other things that we're doing. So I think this report contains fantastic news, and for once, something which I don't think I've ever done, never propose to do again, I would agree with Councillor Durkin in that it is a marathon and not a sprint, and that the true outcome will be at quarter four. But I don't think we'll find many councils that are taking a quarter one finance report to their cabinet at this time of year in a better financial state than we are, whilst delivering on the priorities we've set out. So the report and the amended recommendations was proposed by Councillor Leclerc and seconded by Councillor Hardware. So is that agreed? Agreed. Very good. Which takes us on to, if I can find it there. Item 11, which is the annual Treasury Management Report. Proposed. Councillor Epard, that's seconded. Councillor Carter, Councillor Epard, do you want to introduce that?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I mean, this report does look somewhat weighty and verbose, but that's primarily for statutory reasons. But the important points to bring out, which I've already alluded to earlier, is that we are managing our liquidity effectively. We have, you can see that the great part of our debt, long-term debt, is all PWLB loans. The small part, small short-term loan, which is being properly serviced and repaid from another authority. Our cash liquidity stands at around 33 million today, and that's invested primarily in, we have some term investments which are shown in the report based on recommendations from our employers. We are actively managing our liquidity prudently. It's AA rated or above. So we are not, although we are able to switch very quickly, almost daily if necessary, from one fund to another, for human purposes within the constraints of our risk weighting. We've managed to increase the yields we were getting from 0.5% per annum to now 5 to 5.5%. So this is a clear benefit to us. And okay, that's the upside of the higher interest rates. That's it.
Questions? Councillor Post?
So, in the report, I just want to read the report. The report mentions scrutiny being our first priority, which, given in recent news from many councils across the country, it will give great relief to residents. But what does this actually mean in practice?
What it means in practice is, as I've tried to explain, is the quality and the risk appetites that we have. We are naturally conservative with a small c in this. And our first priority is security. So although we are now achieving much higher yields, there are better yields out there in the market, but they will not equate to our, or fall within the parameters of our risk appetite. So we stick very closely to the limits approved and the criteria approved by Cabinet before, and on the guidance of Ireland Coast, which means that our investments are all AA plus rated. We're not going into speculative investment. We're not using our money to go out and buy speculative investments such as happened in Birmingham, such as happened in Woking. No, we're talking about short-term liquidity.
Further questions?
The report, so the war in Ukraine continues to keep global inflation above central bank targets. So my question is, Treasury management of the council is a hot topic in current news, especially Birmingham and other local authorities, most recent examples. What does this report show us in terms of how we perform?
What the report shows is if you really look at, in those terms, you're not really talking about the short-term liquidity, you're talking about the longer-term liabilities. And if you look at our longer-term liabilities, they are primarily, the biggest item we have is for housing. We've got a total debt just over 200 million long-term at fixed rates of interest. So none of those are impacted by hikes in interest rates now. Unless the only things that we impacted is if we mismatched our, or we borrowed short term before for long term liabilities, so there's a complete mismatch in the risk management, that would be very dangerous. We don't have that at all. Our long term liabilities cover long term assets, they're matched. And the only short term debt we've taken was a supplementary amount for the Harvey Centre acquisition. In fact, we used some of our liquidity, and this was an intelligent use of it, we used some of our excess liquidity to buy into the Harvey Centre, which is a temporary one. because at the time when interest rates were rising, and now they're starting to fall, we've been foolish to lock into for a 30-year period at high rates of interest. What we've done is use our short-term liquidity, so we've foregone treasury revenue, which at that time was about 0.5%, 1% per annum. And we've foregone that instead of paying out 5 to 6% per annum. Now, when the interest rates come down, there will become a point where we'll need that liquidity again. And the market will change, the interest rates will come down, and that's the time we will lock into a longer term borrowing to finance the large sector acquisition.
Further questions? Councillor?
Yeah, just a couple, Chair. On page 42, it just says there's a drop in investment from 36.5 to 21.1 million. I just wondered if you could, lay on speed, clarify that for me. Page 42, the take in the middle.
That was, it's good that you raised that, because that's exactly the point that was made.
Oh, okay.
We use those funds for the harvest centre.
Thank you.
That's not it.
Just we answered. The other question, and again, as I say, we obviously support the first proposal. This is a friendly question. But have we looked at the potential impact that the closure of the workplace like will have on, it takes the great question we'll have on the whole thing?
Yeah, the first thing I'd say, actually, I should have said closing remarks of the previous item, you were suggesting that the reason for our favourable financial position was due to vacancy savings, and you admitted the fact that it's also due to, or more at the point, that it's due to the increased yield from Harlow Centre, better than expected yield from Harlow Centre as a result, as a direct result of the decisions that we as an asset manager have taken, and the expert advice that we continue to receive, which in terms of the ongoing Wilco situation is absolutely crucial. You'll be aware that there were a number of stores that were announced yesterday or last night for immediate closure. Harlow wasn't included in that list, but it's an ongoing situation. However, I would stress that should that happen, I'm absolutely confident about our position in that sense, and whilst there will be some short-term challenges as a result of that, I really don't envisage any medium or long-term difficulties with that as a result of our prudent management of the harvest centre. Are there any further questions? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Leffart, on the number of years I've been at the council, its finances have always been highly security minded. Can you assure me that that priority is still given to that? We're not out there recklessly spending money like some councils have done and got themselves into a bankrupt position.
If you're asking me if we're planning to go out and buy a coffee chain or chain of pubs, yes, I can assure you we're not. Our investments are relating to our priorities strictly. And the priority that will require investment in that regard is within the context of the regeneration of the town centre. That is all explained where we have the harvest centre, and it's all in there. We are not going out buying anything outside those parameters. We have no plans whatsoever.
There have been no further questions, comments? Councillor Lips.
It is very quickly turning to this apologies for it. It's good to hear say that we're not just blaming the war in Ukraine and COVID on the issues around inflation, and actually it does recognise on page it's 39. Page 43, the impact of inflation and the impact of our borrowing rates on the disastrous new budget, which was introduced by former Prime Minister Liz Truss just a year ago.
Yes, fortunately, given our liquidity position,
It's not a question.
Oh, sorry.
Didn't have to be.
Any further comments? Councillor Leffart, you can sum up in response to the comment.
Okay. Well, I think in response to that comment, as a prelude to my summing up, I would say that fortunately, in this instance, we're on the right side of that interest rate hike. Yes. in our liquidity, and the fact that our long-term borrowings are all at low locked-in rates. I think I tried to explain that and show that our treasury is well managed, prudently and strictly within the guidelines we've set. It's given us opportunities to be imaginative, and we've used that creatively and effectively in the acquisition of the Harlow Centre. So I recommend this paper for approval. Thank you.
There being no further comments, I'd just like to endorse the sentiments made by Councillor Leppard in terms of the evidence of our strong treasury management, particularly against the backdrop of some councils which are facing increasing challenges as a result of their activity in this sphere, and commend the Director of Finance, and particularly the Corporate Finance Manager, as well as the Assistant Director of Finance, for the work they continue to do on this with the support of Parliament Post on a day-to-day basis. Which takes us to a vote on the motion. Recommendation. No, it's just a note. Is that noted? Very good. Which takes us on to